Hello again, everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show on this last day of August 2021. Up first, let's see, on the not the fire danger, no fire danger. So that's why I haven't been showing the graphic, is virtually no fire danger at all around the state. So hazardous weather graphic, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories out. Interior Alaska from the Arctic coast to the North Gulf Coast, Panhandle, no watches, warnings, or advisories, or anywhere out in the Bering Sea or the Aleutians for the next probably couple of days. You can see a pretty nice storm, shows up pretty vividly there south of Kodiak Island, pushing northeastward. That bringing increase in the winds, only 15 to 20 miles per hour. Currently at Kodiak State Airport. Stronger though down at AKwx, of course, and closer to this system. They're getting winds up to 30-35 miles an hour out of the east and east-northeast in gusts. And otherwise, Iliamna farther to the north, picking the winds up to about 25 miles an hour out of the east. But again, a nice sunny day, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, into the Manausqa-Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin. Even some sun breaks up over the Tanana Valley, as well as even more sun breaks, mostly clear over the Panhandle today with temperatures well into the 60s, some areas rising in the lower 70s. Campbell Creek Science Center, East Anchorage, up to 72 at mid-afternoon, as was Big Lake, and Butte not far behind, 71 degrees at the same time. And Granite and the Kenai Peninsula and Kenai Wildlife area there, where the reporting station is, also in the lower 70s, and portions of the Copper River Basin, Panhandle, mostly in the mid to upper 60s, some lower 70s starting to show up in the inland areas away from the water. Otherwise, just a lot of clouds out over the Bering Sea with a cyclonic flow to them, kind of counterclockwise rotation there just west of the Pribilofs, another one farther there northwest of Shemya, around a couple of low centers out there with some loose clouds all the way up into the Bering Strait area, kind of linking up with an old boundary there. Just very light amounts of rain, nothing significant. AKwx picked up about a tenth of an inch of precipitation, 11/100ths in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, Sand Point, the system mostly staying to the south of the rain-producing clouds, staying south of the Alaska Peninsula, just grazing that area with 3/100ths of an inch at Sand Point. Dillingham did pick up a tenth of an inch of precipitation out of some moisture that snuck in there. And areas of light rain also over much of the western interior, mostly less than a tenth of an inch, just a few hundredths of an inch mostly to none at all. But let's see, cold foot off to the east there in that kind of east-west moisture boundary there had about a tenth of an inch of precipitation, as did Selawik. So kind of a uniform area of light rain there from the eastern Brooks Range around Coldfoot back to the west and the northwest coast, where low clouds, fog, light rain throughout the day, intermittent rain for the Kivalina area down in toward Kotzebue. And for tonight, looking at increasing wind and rain coming into the southern Cook Inlet area, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, and gale warnings developing for the Barren Islands. Otherwise, pretty nice southern Alaska, and lingering showers there, especially back to the northwest Noatak Valley and along the DeLong Mountains southwestward to the northern Seward Peninsula and the Bering Strait, but really scattering out farther to the east there, but sort of lingering into the evening or throughout the night, and a risk of some moisture for the Arctic coast, but whatever does fall will be quite light and scattered. May not even notice it at all. And low clouds, fog begin to increase along the Panhandle coastline. Some of that may get into the inside waters toward morning. Otherwise, kind of cloudy and unsettled for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Not too bad, especially wind-wise. Wind not a factor at all for the next couple of days out there. Otherwise, tomorrow, high pressure right over the southeast coast. Another mostly sunny day. After the morning, low clouds and fog areas that develop tonight burn off. And it should be another nice afternoon, much like today. South central Alaska, though, especially Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, looking at increasing clouds tomorrow, increasing precipitation chances, mostly the southern Kenai Peninsula. But storm force winds out of the east for the Barren Islands and good gales in the forecast. Southern Cook Inlet developing in the afternoon, northeast 35 knots coming in there. Possible gusts 50 miles an hour, because that's in the marine areas of the Barren Islands, and full gales for the western North Gulf Coast. Otherwise, interior, central and eastern interior, not too bad. Maybe a risk of a few showers in the Koyukuk Valley. Chance of rain, Bristol Bay. Another weak front brings chance of rain, or more or less periods of light rain to the Alaska Peninsula. And later tonight for the Pribilofs becomes showery in the afternoon. Less shower activity, maybe some sunbreaks for the Aleutians in southern Bering Sea. And the outlook for, Thursday. Low pressure slides northward, not really moving too fast, but rain will begin to diminish for Kodiak Island, become a little more showery, if not end there down toward AKwx area, southwest part of the island. Otherwise, weakening fronts, so lose the storm force winds and lose most of the gale force winds as well as it pushes up right along the North Gulf Coast. Look for moderate amounts of rain there. Increasing rain, especially all of the coastal areas of the Panhandle, has a pretty good chance of some light rain. Inland areas a little more showery and iffy if you get any at all. Farther east you are, the better protected you are from the rain. Otherwise, in the interior, look for a general increase in the clouds. Central interior, there'll still be some breaks in the overcast, possible sun breaks there, even though I don't have them really drawn in, but definitely dry, maybe some showers sliding northward there into the Eagle area. And chance of showers all of the west coast there, all the way down to Bristol Bay, northward to Point Lay. And taking a look at lows tonight, 40s to near 50 for the southeast coast, 40 to 45 Copper River Basin, upper 40s to lower 50s, the Sitna, Mananuska Valley, Kenai Peninsula, lower 50s Kodiak Island, upper 40s to lower 50s Bristol Bay, Kuskokwim Valley, followed by highs tomorrow. Back lower to mid 60s, Kuskokwim Valley, upper 50s, lower 60s, Bristol Bay, upper 50s, Kodiak Island, mid 60s, mid to upper 60s possible again, especially for the Susitna Valley, mid 60s, Mananuska Valley, 55 to 60 for the Kenai Peninsula with increasing clouds sooner there than farther to the north, mid 60s for the Copper River Basin, and lower to mid 60s, mostly sunny skies for the Panhandle, call it 65 to 70. And for the lows of following morning, looking mid 40s, not too bad. Copper River Basin, more cloud cover, warmer temperatures for the overnight lows. Upper 40s, lower 50s for the southeast coast. About the same Kodiak Island, really about the same for the Kuskokwim Valley, Bristol Bay, upper 40s to lower 50s. And then that'll be followed by highs in the mid 60s for the Copper River Basin for Thursday afternoon. And cooler, south central Alaska, Susitna Valley, maybe 50s to possibly lower 60s, upper 50s, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay. And it looks like a little bit cooler for the southeast coast, of course, with the clouds and rain on the increase there. Still could see some mid 60s there over the southern areas. And up to the north, mid to upper 30s, everyone above freezing for the lows tonight. Even the Arctic coast north slope, near 40, the Brooks Range, south of the mountains, upper 40s to lower 50s. Mid to upper 40s for the Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island area, followed by highs, lower 70s, 72 there. Fairbanks, Nenana, North Pole, Eielson Air Force Base, those locations. And actually near 70 or into the lower 70s all the way over to Eagle and southward to North Wyandotte, looking really nice there tomorrow. Mid to upper 60s for the Yukon Flats. And then lows, not too bad, lower 50s, Tanana Valley, otherwise in the 40s, upper 30s for the Arctic coast and North Slope, followed by highs in the mid 60s to near 70. A little cooler, but still not bad. Fairbanks up around 70, 71. Wainwright, maybe even Nenana. And Central Coast struggling to reach 40, Central Arctic Coast. Otherwise, lower 60s even into the Seward Peninsula, possibly mid 60s, followed by lows for the Bering Sea near 50. Otherwise, upper 40s. Highs, lower 60s, inland areas, 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid to upper 50s, and mid to upper 50s also for the Aleutians, mid 50s for the Pribilofs, upper 40s for your lows, not much cooler than your highs. And then for tomorrow, Thursday, Upper 50s for the Bering Sea, mid to upper 50s, and then lower 60s as you push inland across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area. Seward Peninsula, Nome looking at 61. And from there, the temperature trend through September 14th, first half of the month. Best chance of being above normal in the eastern interior, but a little below normal back to the northwest.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. IFR, eastern and central Arctic coast. Marginal VFR for the north slope. Then some IFR, southern slopes of the Brooks Range there, southwestward across the Kivalina, Kotzebue area into the northern Seward Peninsula and the Bering Strait. And then IFR just south of or near St. Lawrence Island, down across the Pribilofs into the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Adak and Atka, marginal VFR, and areas of IFR farther to the west. And then IFR extends on the south coast of the Alaska Peninsula, covering all of Kodiak Island, pushing into southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, and possibly even Resurrection Bay, maybe even up to Seward. And marginal VFR in the increase for Prince William Sound, with VFR holding over the interior there, especially along the Yukon-Kuskokwim River Valley areas, Copper River Basin, eastern North Gulf Coast, and the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, we've got VFR holding for the southeast coast, but marginal VFR creeping onto the coastline, and IFR, though, still a ways offshore, but creeping up into western Prince William Sound, probably the Passage Canal, becoming IFR or trending toward IFR in the afternoon, and a little bit of improvement southwest Kodiak Island. Otherwise, IFR north into southern Cook Inlet, now extending up along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Central interior still looking good, VFR, and IFR just clinging to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And Bering Sea, a lot of IFR, St. Matthew Island, St. Paul, St. George, to Adak, especially Atka, otherwise marginal for the Fox Islands and the western Aleutians. And for Thursday morning, lose the IFR there in Togiak Bay, but Bristol Bay and the entire west-southwest interior, all marginal VFR, IFR along the Kuskokwim Yukon Delta coast, mostly south of Cape Romanzoff, and marginal VFR across Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula. IFR again, central eastern Beaufort Sea coast, marginal for the north slope. And then south of the Brooks Range, though, VFR, right on down across the Yukon Flats, Koyukuk, probably the Kobuk Valley and the northern Kuskokwim Valley. IFR creeping northward, though, Cook Inlet, marginal VFR, still looks marginal for Turnagain Arm and the Anchorage area up to Palmer, Eagle River, and the Mananuska-Sitna Valley, marginal VFR, Copper River Basin, lower conditions, IFR North Gulf Coast, and along the Panhandle now and pushing inland, at least to Glacier Bay, trying to get into Lynn Canal, and that'll probably make it in the afternoon, or no, it does not make it in the afternoon. Marginal VFR, Lynn Canal, and much of the central, or inside inner channels, inner waters there, with IFR along the coast, North Gulf Coast IFR, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, just north of the Forelands there for Cook Inlet, and the interior staying VFR, and less IFR now over the Bering Sea, mostly marginal for the Aleutians, and IFR continues, central eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Passes, Hanatuvik and Adigan, both looking pretty marginal throughout the day tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR increasing IFR chances on the eastern entrance of both passes. Rainy though, call it marginal VFR, slowly deteriorating through the afternoon. And windy though, I think will stay VFR throughout the day. Isabel, definitely VFR through the day tomorrow, as well as Mentasta. Tanita could start out VFR, but it'll end the day marginal there, or at least the afternoon. And for Portage, marginal VFR with increasing IFR in the eastern approach. Chilkoot and White remains VFR for one more day. And for the freezing levels, pulling back to the north now, 2,000 feet north of the Arctic coast, or off the Arctic coast, and 4,000 feet there, right across the central coast, 8,000 feet there just north of the Yukon River, 10,000 feet down toward Kodiak Island, the Panhandle. Icing above 10,000 feet, could be some considerable moderate rime icing. Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, up to the western Alaska Range. And for the jet stream, Got the Arctic jet, 100 knots along and just grazing the Arctic coast up there. Pretty light winds through central and southern Alaska, and then the Pacific jet, even south of the Aleutians, and then kind of takes a turn to the north there into the Gulf of Alaska as it goes up and over that ridge, and northerly over the Dixon Entrance area. 9,000 feet, southeast 45 knots into Cook Inlet, 50 knots at 3,000 feet. Turbulence, moderate chop, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound to Kamishak Bay.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NextRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NextRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute, so it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, And current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology and is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the MPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Not a lot changed from yesterday, although maybe a shade in closer to the western Arctic coast there, not too far from, Wainwright. They're otherwise kind of hanging in close along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And light winds expected through Thursday. So not much variation in the ice field out there. And then winds could become more easterly into Saturday. So from Thursday to Saturday, you could see a westward movement of the ice, 10 to 20 nautical miles. From there, going on to the coastal water forecast. Small craft advisories for the central and north coast of the Panhandle. Tomorrow, 25 knots out of the southeast, 20 knots from the southeast on the south coast. Light variable winds over the inside waters to southeast of 10 for Lynn Canal with slight seas. Outlook for Thursday. Pick the winds up to 20 knots from the southeast for Clarence Strait, 15 knots for Stevens Passage, same direction, and then light variable winds continue for Lynn Canal with seas around 2 feet. And small craft advisories for the south coast, southeast, 30 knots, 9 to 10 foot seas, and some gale warnings on the north coast there, especially the extreme north coast. Southeast winds up to 35 knots, 16 foot seas, and the eastern North Gulf Coast looking at 40 knot winds for the day Thursday. Otherwise, tomorrow, we've got storm warnings out for the Barren Islands. East winds, 50 knots there, a narrow band of storm force winds in advance of that occluded front. So east 50 knots there, Barren Islands. Northeast 40 knots for Kamishak Bay, Southern Cook Inlet, gale warning. Northeast 35 knots, north of the Forelands only 20 knots out of the northeast, and 45 knot northeast winds for the western North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound looking northeast at 20. And pick those up to 30 knots right out of the east for the Sound with seas building to 6 feet. And small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast, southeast 25 to 30 knots, and same thing for the Barren Islands, southeast at 30. Gale warnings staying there for Kamishak Bay, northeast at 35 knots, and 30 knot northeast winds for Southern Cook Inlet, north of Forelands, north at 25. That's good for small craft advisories. Kodiak Island, northeast winds 30 to 40 knots with the 40 knot winds in Shelikof Strait, seas up to 16 feet. And variable east winds for the Alaska Peninsula, 10 to 15 knots, Bristol Bay, northeast at 20. And for the day Thursday, light westerlies for Bristol Bay at 10 knots, seas really laying down. And the Alaska Peninsula, west winds 20 knots, 4 to 6 foot seas. Southwest winds 20 knots, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, east side of Kodiak Island, west to 20. And strongest winds will be in Shelikof Strait. Northerlies in the forecast at 30 knots, with seas at about 6 feet. For western Aleutians, west of Kiska, light variable winds tomorrow, 10 knots. Amchitka Island looking at a light westerly breeze at 15 knots, and about the same for Adak and Atka, west winds 15 to 20 knots. And that wind pattern, sea height pattern, extends all the way to Unalaska Island. West winds 15 to 20 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet. Outlook for Thursday, Unalaska Island 15 to 20 knots out of the west. About the same for Unmac, Adak, and Atka. All west about 15 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. 20 knot westerlies from Amchitka Island. Northwest 20 from Kiska to Shemya. For the southwest coast, Yukon Delta coast, light winds out of the east at 10 knots and 20 knots there for the Kuskokwim Delta coast. 4 foot seas, light variable winds for the Pribilofs, 10 knots, seas 3 feet, and northeast 20 for St. Matthew Island, northeast 15 for St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound. And for Thursday, north winds 20 knots, St. Lawrence Island. And the southwest coast, northwest, 10 to 15 knots, not too bad, 2 to 4 foot seas, light variable winds again. A couple more days of light wind conditions for the Pribilofs. And up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, actually eastern central coast, east winds 15 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. Even lighter on the west side there at about 10 knots from the northeast. And from Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales, northeasterlies 10 to 15 knots. For Thursday, for the Beaufort Sea coast there, the east side, 15 to 20 knots out of the northeast, small craft advisories for the western Arctic coast down to Cape Thompson, northeast 25 to 30 knots, 20 knot northeast winds from Cape Thompson to Wales. For tonight, rain increases, pushes into southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak and Kachemak Bays, and low clouds and fog increase over the Panhandle. Weak front brings more rain to the Alaska Peninsula and Pribilofs, changing to showers in the afternoon. Again, storm warnings, Barren Islands, good gales, North Gulf Coast tomorrow, but stays fair over the Panhandle for one more day.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.